Welcome to Tom Clark's Substack podcast.
Today, I want to talk to you about going through tough times. And before we get started, let me first say thanks to everybody who downloaded last week's episode, who checked us out directly on Substack, as well as on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever that looks like. I just wanted to say a very quick thank you. If you've never heard of me before or ever heard of my stuff or have no idea who you're listening to now, a quick introduction. My name's Tom, and I've been doing this since 2014, so 10 years this year. I have 3 other podcasts, Tom Clark's Main Event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and 2 Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. The first one is pro wrestling, the second one is pop culture, the third one speaks for itself. There you have it. There's my spiel. BoinkStudios.com, B-O-I-N-K, BoinkStudios.com. Welcome. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. It means a lot to me. And I'm not a hard guy to find. So if you have any comments, thoughts, questions, words of wisdom, whatever that looks like, just let me know. Drop me a line. Let's have a commentary. Let's have a debate, or let's have a dialogue. And nothing too abrasive, hopefully. Hopefully you like what you hear. Hopefully you can relate to some of this stuff as well. We'll see. I try to keep my stuff very relatable. I don't necessarily dumb anything down because I don't think that way about my audience specifically. But I also don't want to talk over anyone's head. And honestly, I don't like to listen to podcasts that do that stuff to me. So again, I just like to keep it simple, kids. I just like to keep it simple and just talk to you like a regular person, because that's really all I am. Okay? So having said all that, let's get into this. If you know anything about me, and especially if you listened to last week's episode, you know that I took a little bit of a break. Not an intentional break. I'm not done with writing by any stretch. I love writing. But as I said last week, I've recently started a contract gig as a content writer for a digital marketing agency, Dr. Mom, by the way. Check them out. Check us out. Another shameless plug. So if you or your company is looking for some digital marketing, you don't want to do it yourself, we take care of everything in-house, from the website to social media, graphics creation, podcasting, hello, and everything in between. Just reach out. I appreciate you very much. And I'll stop shilling, at least for the time being. But yeah, if you listen to last week's episode, then you know that I got extraordinarily busy in my first real week of content writing for Dr. Mom. And I'm having a blast. I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of work, but I'm here for it. I've been on the job hunt since the 1st of May for my next full-time position. It's been challenging, if I can be honest. It's been very challenging. It is what it is. You know, I've ran into folks who've been out of work, 2+ years, and who are in far, far worse shape than I am. So I can't complain too much. Hopefully I sound better today than I did last week. Yeah. Last week I was pretty down, man. Last week I was really going through it. But this week is, I would say, better in terms of I'm not quite as down. I'm not quite as affected mentally. Give it 10 minutes. It'll change. It's the ups and downs, the highs and lows. If you've ever been out of work, let me just tell you right now, then you know what I'm talking about. You've gone through it. If it's taken you more than a couple of weeks to a month or longer to find a job, then you know. And my friend, if you're going through it right now, you have a comrade in arms over here, because this job market today in 2024, absolute effing nightmare. It's the biggest dumpster fire I've ever seen. I've spoken to folks who have been professionals and in the professional world far longer than I've been, who have told me, look, this is the worst I've ever seen. This is the worst the market's ever been. That's saying a lot. And, I vote Democrat, and I hope that things will improve. If Miss Harris wins, hopefully she will. But that can be another topic for another time. Not here to make enemies or start a fight with anybody. I'm just being blunt. I can only be myself, kids. I can only be honest. So yeah, it's been exciting. I've enjoyed doing it so far. I love writing. It's who I am. It's probably the biggest passion next to podcasting that I have, apart from family, of course. But from a work/creative perspective, I just love doing it. I love creating graphics and doing social media. All that stuff is fun for me, but it's the writing and the podcasting that really I feel the most at home. And I just have the best time. I'm going to record a show later today, actually. And so I wanted to knock this out, get a few things aired out and off my chest. And again, hopefully you enjoy this. First off, how are you? How's things going for you and yours? I hope you guys are well. Hope everybody out there is getting along okay, taking care of yourselves and each other. Take care of that mental health, kids. It's more important than it ever has been, especially in this day and age. It's good to talk to somebody. I'm going to tell you right now, if you had told me 10 years ago that eventually I'd be writing about such topics, I would have said you're nuts. But here we are. I continue to be drawn back to writing about mental health. Again, I'm honest. I don't really pull any punches, and I shoot straight. I'm one of those people, and I don't have any reason to hide anything now. A quick little bit about what I'm talking about here, and I don't want this episode to necessarily become about her, but we'll see where it takes us. I lost my sister in the end of 2019. It was in December of 2019, due to some very, very rough circumstances. And so I entered into COVID already grieving. And, then COVID hit and it turned the whole world upside down. All of our existences were, trashed at that point. Our way of life completely changed at that point, and really forever changed for a lot of us, yeah? But I had the unfortunate problems and, again, a grieving process of having lost my sister. Her name was Christy. I miss her very much. And it's tough. It's tough. But again, I don't necessarily want this episode to be about her. Maybe I'll do one eventually. Never say never, right? But it was around March, I want to say. So I made it a couple, 2 or 3 months. Yeah. Maybe February. I can't remember. Who knows? But I had an anxiety attack at work one day. Everything was just coming at me. There's some other things that I won't bore you with, but I just broke down. And my breathing was all over the place. I thought I was going to pass out. And I was like, what is wrong with him? Am I having a heart attack? And it was at that point I said, I can't do this anymore. And that's when I reached out. I Googled some counselors / therapists in the area. I found one. I think the first one I called wasn't accepting new patients or something, or didn't return my call. And I think the second person I called is the therapist I'm still seeing today. And we're almost 5 years after the fact. Hard to believe it's been that long for me. But she's helped me tremendously. And, I first went to sort out my grief and to attempt to deal with the loss of my sister and try to make sense of something that makes no sense, because she was way too young and never should have lost her to begin with. But again, another topic, another time. But in the process of going to deal with those emotions and deal with those things that were happening to me because of losing her, I began to deal with other things that I'd been through in the past, things I'm presently going through that I'd never addressed, I never spoke to anybody about with at all, And man, let me just tell you something right now. If you are on the fence about getting therapy, get off the fence. Okay? If you're considering it, but there's a stigma attached, you're afraid someone in your family will say something, you're afraid your friends will say something, your bros will say something to you. None of that matters, kids. The only thing that matters is that you start working on yourself. And, I understand therapy's not for everyone. I get that. I would never force my belief system on anybody else. I don't think that's the right thing to do. But I'm just letting you know, in my opinion, it would be worth your time. Okay? So I'll just leave that where it's at. But here's what I'll tell you, that once you get into the room with somebody, if that somebody is good at their job, you will discover things about yourself that you never knew existed. I promise you that. You'll be enlightened. I know that sounds hokey. I know that sounds silly. I know that sounds like something out of a TV show or a movie. I get it. But honestly, man, it's the real deal. You'll discover things about yourself that you never realized, things that you could never put into words. Those things are the things that will hit you like a smack in the face. And you'll come away from each session learning a little bit more. You're getting more tools than you had before. Okay? And it's important. It's important. Again, I recommend it. But like I said before, not going to force it on you. The piece that I wrote for Substack, and it had been a couple weeks since the last time I wrote, I released it actually yesterday as I record this on September 17th. 3 crushing feelings that can keep us down. Everyone goes through tough times, but how we respond can be even tougher. I told you in the last episode I was no longer going to read my work as an episode, and I'm not going to do it now. I'm sticking to that. I just don't want this thing to be too robotic. I don't want it to be scripted. I don't like working with a script. I've never worked with a script. I hate scripts. I like just hitting record. When I record a podcast here in a little while, it's going to be completely me and my buddy that I'm co-hosting with. It's just going to be us talking about a movie, actually. And it's off the cuff. I haven't written anything down. I got some notes in terms of, when the movie was released and the characters and the actors and all that stuff. But I didn't write down, here's what I think, and scene in the third act, I believe. Nah. I just like to let that stuff flow. So I'm going to let it flow here today. Again, this is more Tom than anything else I've done with this Substack podcast to this point, counting last week. So yeah, I just want it to be free flowing. But here's what I'll tell you. If you decide to check out this column, first off, thank you. Tom Clark Pods, pods.substack.com. That's where you'll find my work. I appreciate you following me. I don't have anything behind a pay window. That could change one day when I get 1 million followers and start making the big bucks, baby. You believe that, don't you? Hey, everyone's got to aspire to something, yeah? But for now, everything is free to read. Go check me out. Follow me, man. If you're a writer and you're on Substack as well, I'll follow you back, dude. I'm a nice guy, man. Come on. But here's what I'll tell you. I've got this thing broken down into segments. The first part, I'm not good enough. I know that's something to hit you in the face with as we get into this here, but look, if you've ever been down, if you've ever grieved over the death of a loved one or grieved over the loss of a relationship, grieved over the loss of a job, it's grief. All the same, it's grief, dude. And we all process it a lot differently. None of this is in the piece, by the way. But we all process grief very differently. And I'm of the firm belief that whatever it takes for you to process is what you should do. I don't mean go out and hurt anyone. I don't mean go out and hurt yourself. I don't mean get wasted every single night. I don't mean go out and, take up cocaine as a hobby. All right. But I don't mean go knock off a liquor store. Nothing crazy, kids. But, you want to be at home and where you're safe and you want to hang out with your friends. You want to kick back a few. And again, as long as you're not driving and not making a fool of yourself, look, I don't judge, man. Again, everyone processes differently. If you'd rather be in a room alone and never speak to anyone, if that's what you need to process and you can handle that, then do what you need to do. If you need to sit around and cry, if you never need to cry, I'm a firm believer. You do not tell anyone how to process. Don't tell anyone how to deal. It's a terrible idea, man. People try to do that stuff with me. Let me tell you this. When I did lose my sister, a fellow that I used to work for had come by to see me, him and his wife, and I'd asked me how we're doing, and I was very, very thankful. And I was very gracious with what they were saying. And I really appreciated their sentiment. I was still a basket of tears at that time and really couldn't be talked to without breaking down. But I did make the comment, I'm finally going to get some help. I'm going to go speak to someone. And it's a long time coming. I really need this. I feel like this will be good for me. And his wife immediately goes, oh, no. You don't need that. I mean, you just need to pray. You need to give it to God. Give it to God, she says. Look, I don't disparage anyone's belief system. I appreciate the fact that they went out of their way to say hello to me that day, to actually come see me, in addition to other things. Yeah, but still went out of their way to talk to me, to try to console me and try to, help alleviate where they could. They didn't know my sister at all, right? But, they were there for me. And I really, really, truly appreciated that. But I started to get a little agitated too. Because, again, people are going to give you what they know. If you're a Christian, if you go to church, that's what you're going to give people. If you're an atheist and you don't go to church, that's what you're going to give people. Okay. I mean, it's different for everybody, right? But I didn't really need to hear all that right then, but I smiled and I was very gracious and I thanked them. And then later I thought, wow, that sucked. But, I don't judge. I don't, again, they were just trying to help and they couldn't really do anything to help me feel better. So they gave me what they know. Here's what I'll tell you. Back to the rest of this. At any given time in my life, I've went through such inferiority complexes, such self-doubt, crippling self-doubt, okay? Imposter syndrome. I didn't know what that was until I had it labeled. And then suddenly I'm like, crap, now I got that too. Wonderful, right? That wasn't pleasant to hear. Oh, there's a label for it. Great. But listen, the words I'm not good enough, I've said them plenty of times. I'll probably say them for the weeks out. I know that sucks. And, Tom, you're so enlightened. You're getting therapy. I thought you were getting better. Look, I'm never better. I'm coping. I'm dealing with life. I'm dealing with being unemployed. I'm dealing with, paying bills and still trying to keep up a certain level of lifestyle, but I don't have a means to support it anymore. And I'm looking for work wherever I can. Okay. I'm continuing my podcasting. I'm continuing social media for my podcast, and I'm continuing writing because these things keep me whole. Without these things, I would, I don't know where I'd be today. And, my family's here. They support me. They love me, and that's great. But from a creative standpoint, I internalize quite a bit. I'm one of those people that, without getting too deep in the weeds on you, I'm one of those people that thinks about his thinking. And my therapist tells me that's a high degree of intelligence there you got, Tom. Thinking about your thinking. And she supposedly does the same thing. And when I was told it was high level of intelligence, I thought, well, that makes me feel better, because I thought I've been nuts this whole time. For years, I thought, what is wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with me, man. But I think about my thinking. You know that joke that women have about men? Stand-up comics have had it. They've been saying the stuff on stage since the 60s, right? Like when you ask women what they're thinking, it takes an hour. You ask men what they're thinking, they're really not thinking about anything. It takes 2 seconds. All they're thinking about is sex and food. That's not me. I have a very feminine approach. I have a very feminine mindset. And look, I don't really care what anybody thinks of me. I'm just being honest with you. And my dad was killed when I was 4.5. So for 10 years, until my mom, met and married my stepdad, it was just me and her. It's all I had. So I didn't have a male influence around. I didn't have a man to teach me how to fish. I didn't have a man to teach me how to work around the house. I didn't have a man to teach me how to mow the yard. I didn't have a man to, that I could go to about my first date, my first kiss, my first, intimate encounter. I couldn't get advice from because he wasn't around. You know what I mean? Through no fault of his own, of course. If you're raised by a woman, you know exactly what I'm saying right now, right? If you're a man raised by a woman, you can probably relate to this. But as a result of all that, and a result of other things, I assume, I have a very feminine mindset. It's kind of how I am. I've always been able to make friends with women a lot quicker than I could men for some reason. Well, that makes sense, yeah. And I'm straight. Pretty sure I'm totally straight, right? But, I'm a lot more open minded than I used to be, not only in how I vote, but how I see the world. And, it's everyone's got their own journey, right? Everyone's got their own path they have to travel. And I know the path I'm on. And, again, be open-minded, kids, if I could tell you nothing else. Apart from the seek help if you would like to. Again, totally up to you, but I do recommend it. But no, I say I'm not good enough. How about I don't matter? You ever said that one to yourself? That one sucks too. Here's why I don't matter is worse than I'm not good enough. They both sound equally bad, yeah? But here's the problem. When you start walking around going, I don't matter, then the hope's almost gone, man. It's almost gone. It's nearly out the window. It's almost over. Not over. You know what I mean? Not to that extreme, although it could be. But I don't matter, man, that cuts deep. That cuts way deep. And dude, once you say it, it's been said. Not much you can do to take it back. You know what I mean? And, like the column goes a lot more in depth than I'll go into right now. But here's what I'll tell you. As a younger man, when I was in the dating pool, doing that stuff and getting my heart ripped out 6 ways from Sunday, I don't matter, brother. That carried a lot of weight with me. Trust me. And look, for some people, there's no coming out of that. Just like there's no coming out of no one cares. When's the last time you said that? That's heavy, man. Here's what no one cares does to you. No one cares isolates you and puts you on an island by yourself. No one cares means I'm in this alone. I don't have anyone to lean on. No one cares. Now, how many people do you know that truly don't have anyone else? I mean, not a cousin, not a coworker, not a priest, not a social worker. Nobody, dude. Nobody. Yes, they're out there. I'm not naive enough to believe that everyone's got somebody. But look, I don't know that I personally know of a lot of people that don't have anyone at all, period. But here's what happens when you start saying these things to yourself and you repeat them all the time. It becomes a narrative in your head. And no one cares is a big part of that narrative, man. No joke. If you're shaking your head and you know what I'm saying, if you're nodding in agreement, then you get it, right? You've already been down this path. Or you know someone that's been down this path And let me tell you something. Again, it's hard to come out. Not impossible. Notice I didn't say it's impossible. I said it's hard, right? But no one cares means you're isolated from that point on. And look, even if you do have people in your life, and chances are you do, dude, it's common sense is out the window, man. It's gone. Because you've convinced yourself through whether it's grief, again, or job loss, or loss of not just a loved one, but a relationship, or whatever that looks like, okay? Could be anything. If you're going through it, if you're struggling, it's real easy to take the focus off the initial problem and put the focus on you. Suddenly, it's your fault. Suddenly, you don't matter. Suddenly, you're not good enough, and suddenly no one cares. I say suddenly, but for a lot of us, this stuff builds up over time. And here's something else I'll tell you. If you've been enduring this stuff for most of your life, or as long as you can remember, that means it wasn't sudden. Yeah, that means this has been going on for a long time, man. That's a big deal. It's hard to come out of it. Let me ask you this. The people who are in your life, be honest. When you think about this next bit, I want you to really, truly be honest with yourself. Don't mess around. Be straight. How many people in your life say things like, stop complaining. Stop whining. We're all dealing with something. Stop being a baby about it. How about this one? Just get over it. You know how many times this stuff's been said to me? You have no idea. And I won't tell you who said it. I don't want to get into it. But, people I love and care about have said these things to me. I'm like, really? All right. But see, here's the problem. That stuff doesn't address anything to your core. It glazes over the surface. It doesn't touch really anything. Honestly, it doesn't touch a thing. It doesn't get to the root cause of what you're going through. It doesn't really cut to the core of how you're feeling. All right? That's the problem. And for us to function in an everyday society where, men are expected to be the breadwinners, men are expected to toe the line, men are expected to provide for their family. And when they can't, they feel gutted. They feel like less than. They feel like they've failed. If you think I haven't had those feelings in the past 4 or 5 months, you've lost your mind, because I definitely have. I definitely have. Okay? It's hard. It's hard to not have those feelings, for real. And here's the funny part, or the ironic part. I don't know what I'm calling it. Women who seek therapy and work on themselves are praised for that, and they should be. Any one of us should be, yeah? But if you're a man and you're seeking therapy, you know how much hell you can catch for that from your friends? From your bros who don't understand? Who believe they're okay and believe they've got nothing to worry about. They bury their stuff so down deep inside they never address it until it gives them ulcers. Till one day they're dying young. They don't understand why, because they've held on to everything. Pent up rage, frustration, anger, sadness, depression, anxiety. Stuff's real, man. Again, as a younger man, if you'd hit me with all this and said, Tom, not only one day will you be going through these things, you'll be writing about them. Tom, you'll be doing a radio show about them, podcasting. I'd have said, okay, pal, whatever, right? But again, here we are. And look, I get it. It's easy to just let life get to you. It's easy to just, act like things aren't happening to you. It's easy to just turn a blind eye to it and say, you know what, I'll deal with that later. But here's the problem. Later never comes, man. Later never comes, especially if you got a family to support. Later never comes. You know what will happen? Eventually what will happen is you end up blowing up, because all that stuff's going to come out eventually, right? It's like a slow cooker, right? Just blows the lid off, man. It has to come. It will come out eventually. It could come out at work, could come out against family or friends, or you just put random holes through the wall. By the way, for you women listening that don't understand why men punch walls, there's a reason for that, okay? We're extraordinarily bad at processing. We are extraordinarily bad at dealing. That's who we are. It's what we do. Again, as men, we've been held up to a stereotype, the quintessential American breadwinner as what a man should be, and bury everything deep inside, never discuss how you're feeling. Let me tell you something right now. That's an impossible standard. You know how women are held to the standard of the cover model? No blemishes, perfect skin, perfect hair, perfect body, breasts that are the right size. Everything's perfect, symmetrical, the perfect clothes, the perfect everything, perfect smile. Look, I would say probably 90% of women can't live up to that. Maybe more. Men have it too, dude. Men absolutely have it too. Don't fool yourself. It's true. Look, here's the point of all this, all right? If you need help, get it. I know that sounds easier than said than done. If you're out of work, if you don't have insurance, I know those things can be tough, but I promise you there's something out there that you can get to help, okay? And I don't mean drugs and alcohol, okay? I don't mean, other such stuff that could be dangerous for you and people around you. Nothing wacky. But look and see if there's any kind of support groups online. See if you can find a Facebook group in your area that's made up of real people and it's not a bunch of scams or whatever, okay? I mean, I would do whatever I could to try to get around people who are either going through what you're going through right now or have been through it already. Does that make sense? Speak to who you have to speak to. Try to get yourself out there. Get some advice, whether it's just a family member or whatever. But here's what I'll tell you. Be forewarned. Family can help to a certain extent. They can't help anymore, especially if it's a death in the family. Because guess what? They're going through it too. People who are grieving, it's hard for them to help each other. Because all you can do is hug each other and say, there, we'll get through this together. All right. But again, that person that just hugged you is going to process this loss differently than you are. You know how? You know why? Because they're different than you are. That's bottom line, man. That's bottom line. So again, reach out when things get rough, reach out, no matter how hard it is, speak to somebody. And look, on the flip side of that, leave yourself open to the idea of helping somebody that's around you. If you know a friend is going through something, if that friend just lost a job, if that friend just lost a loved one, if that friend's wife just left or his girl broke up with him, whatever that looks like, or his son took off and won't speak to him, reach out to that guy, man. Talk to him. Just let him know, hey, I'm here. Like, I'm not a therapist, but I'm here to listen. I'll listen. Whatever you got. Let him know you're there for him, man. That could mean a lot. I'm telling you. Be the somebody that you would want to be there for you if you needed help. Do all you can, man. Seriously, it's important. It means a lot. You know what I mean? For a lot of people, they don't really necessarily have extended family. All they've got really is their circle of friends. Lean on those folks. They're your friends for a reason, yeah? And when it's not enough, you need professional help, get it. Do what you can to find it. A lot of resources online that can help. Get the help you need, man. Again, not trying to make it sound easier than what it is, but reach out. Don't sit on this stuff. Don't let it fester and boil till it boils over. You will regret doing that, I promise you. We've all been there. We've all been there. That's it for me this week. Thanks much for listening and subscribing. And the piece I was telling you about, it is indeed on Substack, as I said before. It's called 3 Crushing Feelings That Can Keep Us Down. Tom Clark Pods, pods.substack.com. tomclarkpods.substack.com. Please subscribe on the site and do me a favor. Be sure to like and comment on today's episode. All right. I will comment back. Again, if you're a writer on Substack, follow me. I would appreciate it. I will definitely follow you back. You can also check me out on medium.com at Tom Clark Pods, Pods. Real simple. Thanks again for listening, kids.
For more of Tom's podcasts, please visit boinkstudios.com.